Hey everyone, this is DayTraderRockStar, and this morning I'm going to be doing a little recording here of the opening of the market. RPM's on the mic today. I'm in the chat room trading with you, the members of Day Trading Radio, and I want to just kind of go over some of the things I look for at the morning. How do I break down the morning trade? Of course, we get in here early, around 8 o'clock. We go over all the news, upgrades and downgrades, look at focus stocks and stuff. But the overall, we want to be able to get a feel for the overall markets, because the first thing I want to see is, what's the overall sentiment in the market? Is it kind of bullish? Is it bearish going into the day? And that kind of really gives us it helps a lot on the directional side of the trade. If you're looking for shorts or looking for longs, it's always good to have the market behind you, And I use a term called have the wind in your sail. It's always good to go with the tide. Any analogy you want to use, but so in the morning we have that. Again, today we had a jobs report out. We had the unemployment rate. You could see the market actually spiked up on news of lowered. The jobs came in much lower than expected, and this was at one point seen as a positive because you don't want the economy heating up too much, and then people are really starting to focus on when the Fed is going to start to raise interest rates. So. A little non-performing jobs report kind of puts that on the back burner, so we probably got a little bounce on that. But the market's been selling over the last few days, and every day this week we've actually been selling into. So this is a Friday, and it seems like a perfect scenario for the first week of September, which has been the most bearish month in the last over 50 years. It ranks number 12, September, both on the Dow, Nasdaq, and S&P. So anyway, so the first thing we want to do is look at the open, and we look at what we have some really great pivot areas here. Pivot areas are where you could definitely see a directional change in the price. So we have a pivot area up here, so instantly I put those two trend lines up here. Another thing you want to pay attention is that first half an hour, first 50 minutes of the trade. Becomes very volatile. You can come out, take out ranges, you can push higher, pull back, break down, take out the lows, then push back up, take out the highs. So it becomes a very volatile time frame to trade. So you have to be a little bit more careful, and if you're a new trader, you could get caught up in this type of chop and really get frustrated with the trade. So right now I'm going to focus on a couple stocks. One stock I'm focused on today is Facebook. Facebook continues to look very good. Google continues to look very good. Some other stuff. Apple, of course, is always in the trade, and it's trading under $100. So not really focused too much on that. That's before the big event next Tuesday. But Baidu, another great stock that seems to be holding up pretty good. And AKAM, which we're in, showing some good relative strength now. So I'm going to show you some things that I look for. And I want to just kind of point those things out and see if we actually make some calls on the market here using the futures. And right now you can see what's going on here. The market officially opened here. Open market at 9:30. We kind of popped up, dropped back down quickly, now bouncing back, and you can see the volatility coming in. Tick here pushing back up here, and the tick is one of these things I was paying attention to yesterday, and one thing I noticed that the tick would never really got back really above 500, and the tick range could be through 1,000, below 1,000, and those are considered high ticks and low ticks. But you could see yesterday the negativity in the market here really kept the tick below 500, and we'll see if that stays within that pace. So looking at that right there. So first thing, Baidu here pushing back up here. AKAM here, we're long that. Google here pushing higher. Facebook long that, looking very good. The oil and gas stocks are lagging, and they are not performing. And of course, gold here always kind of stuck here recently in a large trading range. Market coming back pretty hard, 1995. All right, back here to the markets, and well, we can see this trend line actually came right back up to this trend line. We seem to be holding on to this. We're kind of flagging out. I'm looking at some signals just to kind of show you what I'm looking at. The first thing I want to do in the morning is actually take a look And again, we had a time frame here, what's called a 950 time frame. Sometimes we get a nice little pop off of that. But what I want to do at this point is actually take a look at the S&P, different time frames here. We start off with the daily. We know that the daily has been embedded to the upside, which is where the stochastics here have pinned to the upside. And recently, yesterday, we kind of pointed out this big reversal candle. And the reason I thought it was a bigger one than normal is because we ended up with a decent candlestick, which we call an outside day. We trade above yesterday's highs, or this is from yesterday, but we traded it above the previous day's high, and then traded below the previous day low. And then that's usually a good sign for follow through. And again, the daily here started to show maybe a possible crossover, and if that actually plays out, then the momentum here shifts and we start to get some selling pressure. And that's what I've been noticing over the last 3 days. We've been starting to see that selling pressure. Every bounce has been being sold into. So now we go look at that hourly, and the hourly here comes back and says, wow, the hourly just got oversold again. And the hourly has been very key for the short-term trade over as many months as you want to go back here. So the hourly has actually been pretty good. We had a nice bounce over here, a decent little upward ramp here. We're about to get the crossover here again. So do we move higher off of this? Big question. Still kind of fuzzy on this because this, it looks good with a crossover. We could flatten out these things, sometimes. But the 5 minute, again, we want to just go out to that 5 minute. And this is the major thing I want to look for at during the morning hours is how that 5 minutes lining up on the cash. And we are approaching that overbought level. Not quite there yet, but approaching overbought. And this ramp up here, you see this ramp up here? Stochastics ramping up. We have this movement here. You kind of measure that out with the market. And the market has given us a little move up. But nothing really taking out, the highs here. It seems to be still kind of weak. And that's what you have to watch for. You have to watch for that 5 minute rotation and no price action, because what's going to happen is this is going to rotate back over and this is going to drop down. So let's see if this actually plays out. Combined with that, well, here it is. Combined with that trend line up here, which we're going to adjust just a little, just to kind of keep us honest. And we're going to take a parallel trend line, copy that line, just drop it down here, and you probably see a perfect line up here. So now we have a really good recognizable channel that we can start concentrating on. And we're in the channel. It's a big channel. We know that the 5 minute has given us more of a sell signal, plus the market has gone pretty much sideways. So we're looking at this to pull back and probably even rotate back down all the way down here. Take a look around at some stocks right now. And again, I'm just doing this live version of the update. This will be something that gets released later along with the watch list. But right now, just breaking down the ES here. We're seeing new lows on Philip Morris, seeing new lows on Mondelez, Kraft, some of the consumer staples. But again, that 5 minute combination is really key for me. And that 5 minute here telling us, you see the market pushing up, the price here really going sideways, not really getting any gaining anything here. And like I said, we could rotate back down here, and this is going to drop right off. All right, you can see we continue to stay within this channel, and the channel, it's an amazing thing to see 3 pivot areas and then coming back down to another one and moving back up into that same range, and now starting to push back down, and recognizing the overall trend, and then timing the indicators to see when that trend is going to change is the important part. So there's definitely an opportunity of us breaking out of here to the upside. We're just going to pay attention to some things. But there's also a good opportunity of us getting back down to that 1988 level and another test of this lower trend line, and which would bring us back down to the lows of the session. So it would make a lot of sense to, actually see this. But a very nice pattern. This is what I love about the markets. There's a kind of a consistency to channels that tend to set up, and over time and over 20 years of trading, we know how these channels play out. What's the tell before a channel breaks out? What's the tell for a channel to break down? What are the different indicators that are best used with a channel? So once we identify that channel, we can work with it. Work with it. So we have a good channel here setting up, and it's basically, again, looking at more of a downside push here. We have the momentum here shifted over the last 3-4 days. We're going into the last day of the first week of September, and we had some other news out there that we kind of sold into yesterday, and today we had the jobs report, and we're kind of trying to give that back. So watch that 1990, 1989 to 1998, this whole area down here. All right, coming up on that first hour of the trade, and coming up on 10:30, and seeing this pattern play out pretty much perfectly. Again, looking at that 1988 level, which would bring us down through that pivot area, bring us down to the underlying trend line, and take us out to the lows of the session here. Let's just go out here. Yeah, just about at the lows of the session, we get down to that point, and well, that's what we are right now. And again, looking at that 1 minute time frame, it could really give you. Let's take a look back at that 5 minute now. SPX. I want to take a look at the SPX 5 minute chart. And again, here's your daily. We start with the daily. Continued pullback, looking good. The hourly here getting oversold and kind of flatlining. Typically a negative setup, and of course that 5 minute chart here now rotating back as we expected. So a little divergence. We didn't take out the highs. We kind of pushed a little bit higher. So a little divergence. Especially in the morning, if we get an extended S&P 5 minute chart, and I looked at this yesterday too, and we called about this being extended. I said, watch for this pullback. We got that pullback. We continue to sell off. Yeah, maybe a little bit more here. All right, you can see we got a little further down, got very close, coming back down to the the pre-market lows. We're pushing off of this level again, 89. Again, a little bounce here, and again, we're just monitoring this this channel. We're going to extend this channel out a bit, and then we're going to just extend that right here and staying with it. Now, remember this type of channel, a good one. I mean, for a futures trader, you got some good range in it. It's a nice wide channel. I like the wide channels instead of just the tight grinds. Tesla here breaking down a little. And I gotta remember I'm not on the radio today, so don't act like a DJ. Just watching some stocks here. BP here starting to turn back up. But this is the key here. Watching that 5 minute. We got a pullback. We didn't get oversold, and that makes things a little bit more interesting. The 5 minute candle came out, kind of spiked down here, took out the lows. It looks like it took out the lows on the cash here, which counts. We can get a couple pennies below the recent dip down here. Trying to turn back up, but whenever we have a situation where we kind of flatline or bounce right before that 20 line, I'm very suspect of that. Lots of times that bounce goes sideways for a while, then breaks down for another leg down. So I'm still kind of, I would be cautious on the flat line and stochastics above 20. Usually between 20 and 30. If you start to go flat, above 20, we call it 25, 25 to 35. If we get start flatline in there, it's usually, just a stall before the further move down. Let's see if that plays out. And again, this is what we're looking at here. Let me bring up some lines here. We're looking for this to just kind of rotate right back down here. Hearing Ben Lichtenstein in the background there talking about Goldman Sachs here on the buy side, stealth buying up some of those contracts. And you can see we're looking at this trend line underneath us. And the one thing I want to bring up here also now, I want to bring this up fast. I want to bring up the tradeometer, and you're going to see probably a setup on the tradeometer.
Low tick alert.
All right, there we got a low tick alert. You can start to hear some of the indicators going off here. I want to set this up fast so you can see it. All right, so a couple of these indicators you will see on the site with when I trade. One of the good ones is what we call the tradeometer and the Algo X. And basically, this is a multiple time frame indicator that gives us the S&P and the cash time frames, 1 minute and 5 minute time frames that want to, when you get that upward arrow, that's oversold. The downward arrow is overbought. So we're now entering that sold level here, and then we start to line up here to that trend line. So here we have a situation where this is what I call an HPS, a zone. And the zone really represents that underlying trend line, which is right here. We're touching it, oversold multiple time frames, and which is setting up here. You can actually see that on the that indicator right there, and we have that also probably registering. If we open this up, you'll see that those levels. Let me actually. I just restarted it, so it has to fill in. But I would say there's a good shot of a bounce right here. And, we kind of just came right into that zone. Remember, very hard to just, kind of pick that right to the quarter, right to the penny where that market's going to bounce. So we usually put a little circle in there representing that zone. And we know that there's a decent level here. You kind of pull into that zone a little.
Tradeometer oversold.
You have the tradeometer being oversold. You'll hear that audio alert. And this is where you want to see this market move here. And you can see that kind of broke away as we started turning back up. You know, we came out of that oversold level. And look at that perfect setup here. Just a perfect setup. And you can see the tradeometer starts to list the levels that are oversold. So this really came in around, well, I have it on the other screen. It came in right at, 1989 and a quarter, 1989 and a quarter, and then 1989.75, it just kind of triggered it again. So we got that move down. From this point on, we got it right down, and we're gonna say that's a pretty decent setup there off that lower trend line. Do we come back and retest it again? Yeah, there's a good possibility of that happening. The market seems to be weak, but I'm gonna say that we're gonna start moving back up. We'll see how this setup really plays out right now. I'll just get rid of that line because it's a little distracting to see it. I'll just keep that yellow line in there. All right, I want to pause this just to come back because I mean it's starting to like watch paint dry here when you watch this thing. So I was like, it's time to pause and come back and see what we're looking like. Again, looking for a little further move back up here. We've been embedded here for a while on the dual stochastics, and we're due for a rotation back up. So we're gonna look for a further move back up. I don't think we'll get up to maybe that 50 period moving average, which is right around that 1992, a little bit underneath 1992, which gives us a nice little pop there. And then we'll try to work from there and see how far we could get. And but I'm going to pause this right now, see what comes of this. And you can see us just unpaused it just because we got that fast move up to the what we call the 50 period moving average. And the period moving average really depends on the chart time frame, the period that we're looking at. Right now we're looking at the 1 minute, so I always say period, but the 50, the 20, the 20's in green, the 50's in orange, and the 200's in red. And this is very important to really identify trends, and the trend over the last couple of days has been holding under all three moving averages. So normally we'll see how strong the market is by watching it react to the 20. If the 20 gives in, the 50 becomes a really key level. That's why we call that 50. I was looking at that 50 for a move back up to it and then kind of maybe staying underneath it, maybe even retracing back down here again. Really has to play out with the momentum indicators. Do we have a shot of getting back to the 200? Yeah, we do. But this is where we start to break down the multiple time frames. SPX here back down on the SPX, and now you can see that the 5 minute. We kind of predicted that if we flatlined before that, we're going to dip down and we're going to make a run down to lows. And now we've actually gotten back into oversold levels.
Low tick alert.
So with that, now we got an oversold again. We took out the lows. We had a little candle here. Things are looking a little bit better. a little bit better on the 5-minute time frame for a bounce. Now we pulled right back from that 50-period moving average on the 1-minute chart, pulled back off of that. And, you know, the first thing I want to do is, of course, recognize the levels you want to take profits in, not worry about, depending on what time frame you want to be trading. Are you a time frame where you want to take these scalps off the 1 minute, or do you want to go out to the 5-minute chart? If you're looking at the 5-minute, this whole area becomes a level that's interesting, but you have to deal with it. You're going to have to deal with the chop that comes along with this. So here's your 5-minute time frame. Here's your 1-minute time frame. The 60-minute time frame will be something even bigger. But the 5 minutes very nice now, and the 60 minutes getting pretty good. So we have some some positives here on this chart. We just came out of an HPS tradeometer setup with a recognizable pattern, really an HPS type of zone. Came right into it at 88 and a quarter, 88 and 75. We bounced up to the 50-period moving average and then pulled back from that level. So we know that this is a good level. This
Low
was a good
tickler.
level. This is not an HPS zone. Here's an HPS zone. This, profit target. If you're out, then you're safe. You have to wait for that next setup. Now the question is that next setup going to be another test of this trend line? This is where things start to get fun. And just looking at the overall patterns here, my guess is that we move back up here, and we probably try to take out this channel to the upside. I like this. Normally I do this on the charts, But I just thought about it, when we do have a 1 minute and a 60-minute time frame lined up, I want to make that 60-minute time, or the 5 minute, I should say, the 5 minute will be will be a bigger square that will kind of represent that. The tighter area, or the tighter circle will be and I should actually make this a circle so we could represent the buy and sell zones. So, just kind of, this was that 1 minute time frame, multiple time frame. This now represents that 60-minute time frame. So, you kind of get that bullseye mark here. The 60 minutes now timed up, the 5 minutes time lined up, and the 1 minute was lined up. So that's why that bullseye really starts to come into play. And I kind of like this. I want to start using this a little bit more on the site, just to kind of represent the multiple time frames. Good idea. So we did get a little further pop to the 200 period moving average, and the 200s has been key. You come down to the 200, bounce off of it, chop around it. It's a definite key, a moving average, a stronger moving average, one of the strongest moving averages out there. And the big question is, do we run into a problem with it? Now, we're just starting to get overbought on this rotation. Remember, at this point down here, we were saying we're due for a rotation back up. So we're just approaching that rotation zone to get complete. That's coming from an overbought level, oversold level, to an overbought level right now. So you can see it up here. We're just kind of pushed up here a little bit further. Just kind of triggered that zone. And then we also have this one starting to approach that zone too. But the 5 minute is key. The 5 minute, 1 minute combination, the 5 minute, 60-minute combination, 5 minute, 60, 50, 5 minute, 60, and 1 minute is, that's multiple time frames. But an important one, the 5 minute, 60, and the 1 minute here all lined up, giving us a nice bounce to the 200. Now we have a dual stochastic 1 minute setup for a pullback, and you can see the market actually reacting off of this level. So we have a small little square sell signal there, represented on the 1 minute time frame. To do something, maybe I can make it color coordinated. Red light, green light, 1, 2, 3. Because I still think we have a shot of pushing back up here. So, even though we're up against the 200 on the 1 minute time frame, remember there's different time frames, and some of these time frames outweigh the other ones. Like the 5 minute here, very good setup. We got that crossover, we got that bounce. And now we can look at that 5 minute. We always have to be going back to that 5 minute cash. Such a good time frame to watch. And you can see that we're up against that 20 period moving average. And this 20 period moving average from all day yesterday, all day today has been holding up. And since we broke down through it, we've held up here, kind of held up here. We're just really holding underneath that 20. So we're right back at that 20 again. We're extended on the 5. Well, we're starting to turn back up here on the 5 minute. But we are pushing right up against the 20. Now, of course, that's a high probability zone. Now you're pushing up against an area. It doesn't, no longer has that scenario playing out. You're going to run to chop. It becomes more of a guessing game. Here you have a really great setup. Here you have a less and less of a setup going long, of course, and there's a possibility of a short setup here. There's a couple things lining up, but it's not an HPS short. Well, here we go. We see a little pop here, and just a little pop in the market, a little high tick pop. And let's see, the tickometer, the last tradeometer setup was 89.75 down here. But we continue to push higher. This is exactly what we wanted to see today. Facebook getting a little pop here back up to 76. And let's see what we can do with this. And this is basically what I wanted to show you this morning, what I look for in the beginning of the day here. Day really starts off for me about 8 o'clock when I get into the office. We start doing some coverage of the news, breaking down what's moving, upgrades and downgrades, and everything else that fits for the market. Then we start taking a look at overall stocks to trade. But when it comes down to, we want to pay attention to what the market's looking like, and that's going to help us determine a directional trade. And right now, again, this is some of the process of what I go through in the morning to kind of get us prepared for the first hour of trade. Now, we've crossed over that first hour of a trade, but you can see that things have played out pretty much as expected, even to a point of giving you some great levels, pushing up here, looking for a little pullback, but looking for a follow-through. So these little areas, these little indicators, hopefully you enjoyed that. If you want more, I do this each and every day live at DayTraderRadio.com, DayTraderRadio.com. So definitely come by. Just tune in, listen. It's free. If you want to get more alerts, real-time alerts for my trading, you could sign up for premium stuff. And but other than that, come on by. We're here all day, and I want to get back to doing some work, and I want to send this out. Hopefully you enjoyed this little segment.